supposed to do this class tomorrow, but I have an appointment, so I won't be able to do it tomorrow. So we moved it up till today. And we are continuing in the Maamar Padah Besholom from the year Tafshin Lamed Zayin, end of 1976. Now, this is actually a three-part Maamar. This is the first one on Yud Kislev, which was yesterday, the Yom HaGeul, the day of redemption of the Mittel Rebbe. And there's another two that were said, Parshas Vayishlach on the Yitot and Yutes Kislev, and then on Chav Kislev. The Amarta and our second Padah Besholom. So we're learning the first one. We'll see if we get to hopefully complete this, and maybe we'll get a little bit into the next one. The Rebbe says, like we're holding on page 6 on the bottom. Now the Rebbe continues. We're talking about the ability to bring the Loiv and Elyon, the idea of Padah Besholom. The point of the Maamar is how do we have a Padah Besholom? How do we have a redemption in a peaceful way that's not even that we have to transform the enemy in a way of battling the enemy, but the enemy disappears, so to say. The enemy is not an adversary in a way that's fighting. There's no consequences. It's padia. It's a peaceful transition from one situation to the next, which is the way it's going to be with Mashiach. And the way we do it today in the present is when we reveal the Yechidish V'Nefesh, the essence of the soul. And the essence of the soul is the ability that has no babud eslahu, there's no even shadow of a shadow, so there's no counterpart in tuma to the essence of the soul, and that's shining through the person. So then the person has a Padah Besholom. Anything that the person engages is able to deal with the situation in a peaceful way. And the Avodah within the person is the idea of Tzon. When you have the bittul, you have absolute bittul, so then you have the ability to take from the Loiv and Elyon, from the highest point of Lavan, which is the simplicity, and bringing it all the way down to this world. Now, so we're holding the bottom page 6. V'hinei, hakoyach lifol birzeh, this idea to be able to be effective, that we should be able to have this, Yaakov is holach l'darka, he brings all the way from Loiv and Elyon down to the lowest point, from the simplicity of the white of the holy part of Lavan into this reality. So the Rebbe continues, V'hinei, hakoyach lifol birzeh, the ability to affect this separation, this refinement, that we could bring it down, not just in the esoteric levels, the higher levels of the world, but actually in this world, to be effective in this world, to bring that change, to reveal Kedusha, holiness, and Gili Or, and the light of God in this, from the Loiv and Elyon into this world. The dark way means the Yaakov brings it to his way. It's not a concept that's outside of Yaakov's space, but it's the dark way, it's within his space. And to bring it all the way from the level of the simplicity of Lavan. 2 times ma'od, we said before, which that's the level. Hold on, that's the level of ma'od habez, the second level, which is atzmus Loiv and Elyon, the essence of the simplicity of Lavan, which is the essence the way it is at its highest level. So how do we bring it from the most simplistic, most highest elevated level of Kedusha, of Or, to bring that down into this world of Gilui? Is who mitzad in the vayinashek Lavan, that Lavan, when he kisses, the idea of kissing is an enabling, empowering moment, that when Lavan kisses Banav Ugnaisev, his sons and his daughters, which is bechinas adus eserusa de laela bechinas atzmus eserusa de laela, that it comes from an awakening from above, not inspired by our Avodah, because Avodah is limited. So to get, this is like we have this in Chassidus many times, the idea of Ani L'Dodi, for instance, with Dodi Li, that the king in the field is the inspiration. There's always this Asrusa Le'ela, is an empowering that gives us the koach to go do Avodah, and then there's a response to Avodah. So the Serusa de Le'ela, the essential level of an awakening from above, meaning initiation from above, and because it's so essential, like we said before, therefore it expresses itself in the communication of kiss, which is the highest level. When we said one of the highest levels of giving over something is when you can't even articulate it into words. When you have words, you're saying over an idea. And you can't, you're so emotionally, so to say, charged, that you can't articulate it in words, it expresses itself in a kiss. And it's not just that this is an awakening from above, It comes to a high level. It goes all the way down to his children, which is descending even lower. And the banav in specific, as a son masculine, is the mashpia of banav. For those coming all the way down to banim, it means children, it means descending down, but it's descending to, and it's an empowering moment, meaning to say what he's saying over here is that the Lev and Elyon is not just, it's the idea of the revelation of the this is Rusa Delela, this empowerment of above, which allows for Yaakov to be effective all the way down to this world. It affects both the mashpia and the makabel. Most of the times we're talking about how the mashpia is affecting the giver. Mashpia means the giver, the one who's the power that's giving affects the receiving side, that elevates the receiving side or responds to the receiving side. Here we're talking about at such a level of revelation that's so out there, so abstract, that it's empowering the mashpia, that the mashpia should, that the giver, the son, the masculine should be a mashpia. What empowers the person to be the mashpia is because the person is getting from Loiv and Elyon. How you stand as a mashpia means you're being empowered to give, as opposed to being empowered to receive. That you're receiving, for instance, if we're going back to the analogy of sports, right? It's catch and run, right? So who gets the statistics? Both sides, both the quarterback and the receiver. Means you're earning yards, you're the mashpia, but you're being empowered to be the mashpia. And at the same time, it also empowers the receiving side of the person, the feminine side. How a person's on a makabel. So when you're just a makabel, I mean, not just, but the level of makabel on the receiving, you're also empowered by Loiv. Means Loiv and Elyon is so simplistic, it's so white, it's so not defined, that it empowers equally the masculine and the feminine, which shows the level of the madrega. Is the very fact that it's in the same vaynashik, in the same kiss, it's empowering both the banav and benaisav, the masculine, the mashpia, and benaisav, the daughter, the feminine, and the makabel, shows how high the level is. It means it's taking the person, the personality, whether it's within the person themselves, because sometimes we're the mashpia, sometimes we're the makabel, or in general to the group of mashpia, group of the makabel, group of the giving, group of the receiving. It's such an it comes from such a place that it's empowering anything in Avodah, whether the Avodah is in makabel or the Avodah is in mashpia. And from there now, the person's a mashpia, or the person's a makabel. So now you can bring it down even further, and that's what the pasuk continues. Vaynashik es banav es benaisav. Vayvarach eshem. I was going to explain what now we're going to go back to what we asked in the beginning of the Maamar. What's the idea of eshem? Eshem is not a typical Lashon HaKodesh terminology to them. Eshem meaning them. He blessed them. And he blesses the level of eshem. What is eshem? Eshem is a very low level, means it continues to go further into, so to say, into the world, into the separation, into the concealment. The Rebbe says, the proper terminology would be to say blessing them using the word oisam, them, Kaloshin haragel, which is the typical terminology. The common Mekoyim is in many places. But nevertheless, it doesn't use oisam, it uses eshem, which means the reason is because es, hem, both of them are two words that make up of concealment, meaning of secondary, of low. Es is esatofel. The es hu bechinas atofel, secondary. The heim hu bechinas ma, and what's heim? Es heim is ma, which is bittul, but it's not regular bittul where there's you feel that you're bottled Hashem. It's heim backwards. The letters are backwards. Heim is the same letters of ma, which is bittul. This heim is so es heim is es hatafel heim. The bittul itself it comes to bring down. Basically, it's bringing from the Loiv and Elyon through be mashpia into the zachar and the cave into the banav u'bnaisa. That's the brach comes all the way down to a situation or a person or a level where you're es hatafel. You're not even solid. And in that itself, it's es heim. It's not even the ma. You don't even feel the bittul. It's the bittul backwards. It's the madrego here. So let explain this a little bit more. Just a little outside idea. So he says in Mavar again, Shizau tevis haklumi beis tevis es veheim. The es who bechinas atafel es is secondary. Okay, es So always, whenever it says S in the pasuk, it's secondary. Habit es avichu es timecha. Vehem hu ois is ma behipuch. And haim is the words ma, which is bittul, but it's backwards. The bechinas ma in yana bittul. Typically, ma is a high madrega level of bittul. Ava bittul ma kameshu bechinas haim, but when it's backwards, adainu behelm, you don't even know that you're battle. The bittul itself is behelm, means you have the potential to be battle. That's why the loiv and elin is coming down to you, because you have the ability to be effective. But right now, as you're receiving it, it's S, tafel, and the haim, the bittul itself is concealed. That's why it's backwards. That's the idea of the avodah. We live 70 years. Who's man avodah? And what does it mean that a person lives 70 years? That's every person's allocated the amount of time you need to do your specific avodah. Not always is it clear what the person's specific avodah is. And we're not always conscious of that 70 years. Sometimes you have 70 years, sometimes you have 80 years, where Hashem says basically this is the allocated time you have. Where with the avodah, of course, the avodah is broken up into Torah mitzvahs. You have to learn Torah, you have to do all the mitzvahs, you have to learn shiurim, you have to daven. But in general, each person has what Hashem wants from that specific person. And the amount of time, like the right, we say the Baal Shem Tov says that a person could come 70, 80 years down to this world to do one favor for you. So the Rebbe says, doesn't mean that one favor. You do one favor b'gashmis or b'ruchnis, right? It means the whole purpose, the kavanah, prati, for this person to come down to this world was to do a favor for someone. It doesn't mean that that's that's all you have to do, because if you're living 70 years, the favor could take 5 minutes, it could take an hour, it could take a day, it could take a week. It's 70 years. What are you supposed to do the rest of the time? So of course, the rest of the time you daven and you learn. But the kavanah, the purpose of what you had accomplished, was all that you're doing is to build to that moment. Doesn't mean that moment's the end of your life, but it's all to build to that moment. That's the focus of your life. So in general, a person, but that's if you have only one purpose. But even if a person in general Hashem has a kavanah for them, but it's going to be accomplished in 70 years. And the idea is to be conscious of it, try to be as conscious as you can of to fill that space properly, those 70 years. It says, a person's life could be possibly 70 years. Who's man avoiding is this the amount of times that a person's been allocated for their avodah. And where is this avodah? It's in the behem. It's hidden. You don't even know. It's not clear to you. The behem itself is to turn the behem, the bittul that's behelim, that's backwards, into mat, which is to have it a revealed bittul. It means, and when Lovin empowers, what we're going to hear is that Lovin is a charge of energy. It's not typical. And therefore, we're going to learn that it breaks through the gal, and that's what Yaakov does. And the question is, how does he bring something so high into Seder Shtalshlis? But the point is this is a charge, like an extra charge of energy that Lovin gives all the way down, not even to the avodah of S, hatafel, S, which is secondary, the haim, which is ma backwards, to be able to, that even then when you're in such a level of secondary, and such a level of concealment, you're still running on this charge of Lovin, the whiteness of Lovin. The ma who betzirf the haim, the way ma is backwards of haim. It says, what's the difference of Bainashik Lovin is ban of Bnaisev, Vayvarch Eshem? So he says in this chain of worlds. So ban of Bnaisev, where it's clear, I'm the son, I'm the daughter. Yes, there's a Mashpia, there's a Makabel, there's the Or, and there's Kalim. But nevertheless, it's in the world. It's clear. So that's the world of Atzilus, where there's clarity. It's not enough. You have to go further out of the world of Atzilus. Hesem is already where things are not clear, which is the world of separation, Bria, Yitzia, Asiya, creation, formation, and action. Shenimshach bracha, that the bracha of Lavain, which is from Leivin Elyoin, even in the space of unclarity and secondary. And like the worlds of Biyah, in respect to not in the kavanah, but in respect of revelation, the world of creation is secondary to the world of Atzilus, where it's absolute godliness. Whatever you want to include in the world of Bria, of creation, versus the world of Atzilus. Not just S, Tafel, but even the way the bittul is backwards. The way it's haim and not clear bittul, which in the Olam Atzilus has more clarity of bittul. self-nullification. Why? Because the Haim is, yes, it's backwards. You don't see that it's bittul, but the very fact that the letters Hey Mem are there means you have the bittul. And the point is that in this world of Bria, in the separation, in the concealment, in all that, you should have a charge of the level of Leiven. The Nakud is that you should be able to get to the Padah Besholom Nafshi, where you're redeeming, you're being effective in this world in a way that's streamlined, it's simple, it's not, there's no pushback, there's no consequences, there's no enemy, there's no skafias hapach, like we said in the beginning of the Maamar, by revealing the Yechidah Sheb'nefesh all the way through into the Avodah of the world of Bria and Yisiyah, in all that separation, in the S, in the Esatafel, in the secondary, in the Haim, not Ma, to find the bittul there. And the purpose, it's not just because to show how far something goes. The difference means when you have sometimes, if you're looking at it from the sense of that the kavanah means God's intention, where does he really want to be found? Where is he really? Is it atzilus in the higher levels, higher worlds of revelation? The question is, how far could he go? No. Not saifim, but chilasim saifim means, because the kavanah is only for how far you're going to go. The kavanah is eshem. The reason why God created the world is how far you could go, is the end of it, not the extension of it. Not that the kavanah is an atzilus and then you push it forward. The kavanah is as the furthest point. And then when there's a revelation, the furthest point that justifies that the B'chlal is a world of atzilus. Otherwise, what's the first purpose of atzilus? Atzilus itself, as great as it is and as batal as it is, still not the essence. So why does it exist? Why does God need an existence, even if it's total godliness, and you have the angels and Kaddish and all that stuff, which is not even, that's the world of Bria. Never mind in Atzilus. What does he need? What do you need all that for? If in the essence of God before creation is absolute godliness, everything is already Yerida, right? We say that the Atzilus itself is a descent for Hashem. But the Kavanah is because the Eshem. And if you're able to reveal the Ma in the Haim, then that justifies that the B'chlal is an Atzilus. So he continues, to show that we said that, just repeating it. Because they have the Ma, because in the Haim there's the Ma, there is the Bittul. When you reveal that, it justifies the whole purpose of creation. So when loving kisses, it goes all the way down to Esheim. The more further the power, the more further the charge of love goes, gives Yaakov the ability to continue to reveal further and further down. Now, let's go a little further. The idea is like this. And what this empowerment that love gives, the veinashek, the kissing, veivarech, and the blessing. So there's two things: there's kissing and blessing. Veinashek, one of the b'naisa, which is we said like in the world of Atzilus, empowering the mashpi and the makabel element, and then varach eshem is to bless even the es hatofel and the heim the way its bittul is concealed, and all that is empowering that Yaakov halachal darke. Because after he leaves love and says Yaakov halachal darke, the Yaakov halachal darke that we talk about is not the Yaakov when he goes to Charan. The Yaakov halachal vayisei Yaakov ves raglov. That's the fruit after Hashem promises him he's going to be with him. That's when he goes to love him. But the Yaakov halachal darka is talking about after he leaves love. So this in the scene is koyach. Ishvil ha'avodah b'chinas ha'tachtonim b'yoseh. The Yaakov go the darki all the way down. Ba'avodas kol echad b'chol yemhu. Where is this in every day in our lives? What's the avodah of Yaakov halachal darka in our life? So now he's going to how this whole pasuk, the sequence of events, works on our day-to-day basis. So he said, it says, every morning we have love when wakes up in the morning. Like we learned about the morning of Avram. What's the morning of Avram? That starts with Shachris, the morning prayer. What does it mean Avram wakes up in the morning? That's the prayer. And in the prayer itself, we're empowered by the Vayashkim love and Babayke. Love and waking up in the morning. My result is that Rabbi Zeftaras Alakasiv Avram taken to his Shachris Avram Avinu instituted the morning prayer of Shachris. But before we could start davening, which is Vayashkem Avram Baboker, Bechin Spoker, Yeshnes Rusul Ela, the Vayashkem Lovim Baboker. before we start with the way we're empowered to daven, which is Avram waking up in the morning, is that we have an empowering in Isrus Leila, so to say, an awakening from above that empowers us. The love in waking up in the morning, kissing his sons and blessing them. That comes from the simplicity of the white that's even higher than Vayashkam Avram book. Like we said in the beginning of the Maamar, where is this power within the person? What is the awakening? Where does it affect? What charge are you? What fuel are you running on that you have this ability to be so effective? Which is the idea of Padah Besholom that you're able to engage the world and streamline it without any pushback. Like we said before, is when the Yechidah Nefesh, the essence of the soul, is awakened. Because within the neshama, what is the loiven? What is the simplicity? That's the Yechidah Nefesh, the fifth highest level of the soul. Within the person themselves, the loiven alien in the person. You have to remember the person. We're not going to get into the details because the neshama, even the highest level of neshama, comes from the Kiyam of Atzilus. But within the person itself, the person's loiven alien, his or her loiven alien, is the Yechidah Nefesh, the highest level of the soul. As the Rebbe explains, that what is the idea of white, the Gabin, loved one who Gabin Atzmi, right? That every other color is an expression. Essential color is the color of white. Not just any white, but the white of the upper white, it's the simplicity of this essence. Like we said, we learned in the beginning of the Maamar. There's the makif, there's the makif of chaya, that's the makif of nefesh ruach neshama, which is the pneumius, the machshav, the meiser, but the koyach seichel midas, the person, intellect and emotions, and the encompassing energy of that space is the chaya, the simplicity of beyond even being a makif of something pnimi of the te'es spherois is the makif, the chaya, zechida. So that's enough. That's awakening the Yechidah Nefesh. It's not enough just that you're running on the essence of the soul. What is the Avodah of the person? It's to bring down. I was talking to every one of us. He's not saying a Maamar, an idea that's for tzaddikim. This is an idea that every person is able to do. That's why it's talking to us here. A person has to through our efforts. As bechinas loiven alim bechinas hayechidah shaloi shetumshach ayidei bechinas chai bekaychoyse v'apnimim. So yes, chai is the makif of the koyach pnimim, of internal energies. So when the loiven alien of the person, the simplicity, the yechidah gets revealed, the idea is now to take it through the makif that's connected to the pnimi and to internalize it. Basically, that your functionality, your consciousness, your mind and your emotions, your thought, speech, and action is all permeated and 100% running on Yechidah. Not that Yechidah is effective, but it becomes one with your pnimis through the Chaya. The Chaya is the connection between the Chaya, between the Chaya and the Yechidah and the Nefesh Ruach Neshama is through the Chaya. It becomes that your reality, which means pashut, your functionality, where your mind thinks, where you feel. It's not that you're brainwashed, or you're not thinking clear. You're thinking clear, but you're thinking with such clarity that the Yechidah Nefesh is clear within your thoughts and emotions, within your machshav, within your koach hamoyach, koach haseichel, the intellect, with your chacham bin hadas. Your whole pnimis is permeated with your Yechidah, and that's what it means. Padah Besholom actually. וכן זו בדוגמס בכנס יחידה שבנפש, המלאך הזה צריך להמשך, הידי ודעשה בכנס לב ונעלם, בכנס יחידה שלו שתמשך, הידי בכנס חי, וכוחי זה והפנימיס. The idea is to bring it into your internal qualities. ועד שימשך גם בלבושים, not just your seichel amidas, but also your thoughts, speech, and actions, that your actions and your thoughts and your speech are permeated with your yechida. Because the end of the day is again, if the idea was the kavanah was, what is God's intention, really the higher levels. The question is how far down you could go. So then you could say, could I go all the way down to my action? That's way too far. Then my action should be permeated by Yechidah. But because the Maisa were Iker, because that was the Kavanah was the Maisa, and everything is just to lead that how you do the Maisa. So of course, if you're doing it right, you could permeate your actions to also be affected by Yechida, because your Yechida exists to be able to permeate your Maisa. The idea is when you could bring down the Yechida into your Maisa, if Elis idea about Atfila, about Tefillah, and what is the power to do it in the day? Is the Vayashkim Love and Babayke that empowers the Vayashkim Avram Babayke. The Tefillah, when a person daven, that's the moment of connection that you could connect to your Yechida, but not just to leaving this world, so you could experience an inner self-connection to Hashem through your essence of your soul, but it's with a purpose, that by connecting to it, then you could bring it and permeate it through to the rest of your being. And that's Nefelis is affected through Avodah Tefillah. The Tefillah, because like the dream of Yaakov, the Tefillah is Sulam Mutzav Arza Reisha Megish Shemaima. The ladder is positioned on the ground, but it goes all the way up to heaven. It brings down from heaven to the earth. What does that mean in the person's abilities to do things? That's the person. That's the koach hamaisa. That's the action. That's the action of the person. All right, we're getting a little further. We have because the last page is already a sequel, a summary. So we have left. We have to do page 8, 9, and 10. 11 is already more kind of a summary. So hopefully we can finish this week. As Shalom, we should be able to finish the Maamar, and maybe we'll see if we can start going into the second Maamar of Kislev. Thank you so much for joining, and have a wonderful day and the rest of your week if you're not going to join any further classes.